All right. Orm is a Danish atmospheric black metal band. They tend to call it progressive epic black metal. And I would definitely associate it with atmospheric and post black metal in most cases. There's a cinematic aspect to it. And I think if you like things like Wayfarer or like Cascadian black metal, even you'll understand the general language that they speak on this record. Although they are interested in various melodic and nearby folkish ideas, but most of it is just somewhere between atmospheric and melodic black metal. And somewhere in the last two albums, they started just pretty much leaning into their concept, which is, they're named after the world serpent, more or less. They're named Serpent anyway. You can kind of infer that, the edges of the universe are in mind, but also the condition, the human condition on this record. Um, so it's sort of like the title essentially, we could take it as like everything and nothing, or, nothingness and all. So what that implies is that this record is definitely a concept album. It's a 90-minute concept album over two LPs that um, it's presenting four stages of life and definitely emphasizing the later stages and the adult cognitive stages. So I don't know, my sort of basic human developmental psychology knowledge that I have sort of let me outline this in a certain way in the article or the review, however you put it. Um, and what I find is that I really like the concept. I think the lyrics are very strong on this album. I think they put a ton of time and thought into all of it. We definitely get their worldview. We definitely get this arc of exuberant and hopeful beginnings in life. The reality of putting in the work to get things that you want and what naturally need and are naturally inclined. And then there's the inevitable disappointment of not meeting your own standards or not achieving everything you want and maybe not being entirely pleased with society as a whole, as it tends to be the barrier between you and what you want, right? Um, so this leads to sort of a hermetic uh, downturn, and for the in this sort of uh, cycle from nothingness into everything. So definitely personal spiritual transcendence is the goal here. It is sort of the end of the narrative. I hate to spoil it for you, but um, the thing is that that's a great concept. I think it's one that I've heard before from a few sort of more folkish, definitely Nordic themed black metal bands over the years in different ways. And I think the mood fits quite well with this music in most cases because these are 20-minute epic black metal songs that tend towards atmospheric and um, sentimental black metal. I would say definitely there's they've definitely leaned into that side of their sound more than ever, and that means that we focus less on riffs and more on atmosphere and atmospheric builds. I think this is a sort of dynamic that fans of really exaggerated modern ideas for post rock, you know, not including like the long speech samples and all that stuff if you're familiar, but it's not post metal. But there are 10-minute stretches of wandering guitar. There's a lot of accoutrement and accompaniment from various guests that you might not notice right away just because it's all a bit of a bluster in a hit of black metal for about anywhere from 3 to 10 minutes. And then you go back into whatever introductory motif or wherever the song needed to go. So it's a lot to describe at once. It's a lot to kind of get through even in a very long review. And I found that my favorite parts on this album last upwards of about 4 to 5 minutes, I would say. And that presents a little bit of a problem when the song is 20 minutes long. And I didn't have this much of a problem with the previous album, it was two songs and 25 minutes each, I believe. It's about 23, 24. And they were they were two very different songs, and they flowed together quite well. But they had their aggression was quite a bit turned up, and it was even more so on the first album, which was more like the 5 to 7 minute epic feeling sort of black metal in the atmospheric context. But then they switched over to just longer format, and that leaves a lot of space to fill with those expectations. And I feel like maybe they had too much space to fill for this double album concept. I feel like there was just a lot of not so much dead air, but really extended sections that relied on me being personally into where they were going with a certain guitar progression or yeah, I think the hardest point was the fully instrumental 20-minute song. It's about 19 minutes. And if I wasn't, you kind of have to be in the mood to sort of sit there for 20 minutes and not necessarily hear any drums or distorted guitars or anything like that. And that's not a big challenge, but it is definitely a more specific niche of enjoyment than I was kind of wanting to sit with over and over and over again. So I think that none of this is a huge issue just because I think the general construction, concept, and execution of the album is it's a very fine quality. I think the album art is quite good. I think the meaning put behind every bit of it is very good. I think the lyrics stand out quite a bit. But you notice I'm not really talking about the riffs very much. Like that's sort of my thing. Is like we get to that point where everything is really hinging on, all right, but we need the substance, the musical substance, and I don't think we get there with the rhythms just yet. For me, it's a lot of padding for a couple of very good ideas. I think, gosh, the one song, the second song, um, uh, yeah, I'm not going to try to pronounce the Danish there, but it builds to a point and it lets it ride for about 3 or 4 minutes, and like I remember distinctly as I kind of would listen to the album twice in a row and put it down. I was like, wow, that part is really good, but I felt like the last two albums had that part in every song, and it was there more often. So this one's a bit stretched. I think their grand vision is sort of coming together for what they want to do. I think this was just a little bit prone to a little bit of sleepiness and just sort of not quite getting to the point in a way that was telling a story so much as feeling it out loud. And yeah, I sort of hit an impasse with it where I would just kind of visit the points that I liked the most and kind of skip over the more sentimental side of it. So the meaning did eventually become a little bit lost to me, but the rest of the album's packaging and all that kind of helps sell it back to me in the long run. So a little bit conflicted on it overall. I enjoyed it, and I enjoy what this band does. I'm not quite there with buying into the full, getting the double LP and sitting with it and really soaking it in any further than I did listening to it so far. So, 10 to 15 listens is still a pretty good run for a 90-minute album. So take that as you will and into context. And I tend to enjoy more melodic or traditional, various avant-garde. I like extremes in black metal. So this is a very easy listening experience, and that might be weighed in different ways. So you'll get more of that if you just read the review. Read into it however you see fit and make your own decisions. So, thanks.